Thanks so much for joining us. This is 10 out of 10, where we aspire to give you 10 takeaways out of a 10-minute interview with a key leader in our home furnishings industry. And today I am very pleased to bring Lance Keziah on board with us here. He's the CEO of Crypton. They are, of course, a performance textile company that specializes, just about everything: upholstery, fabric, carpet, wall coverings. You name it. They certainly do it all. So Lance, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate that. And as we promise, I'm going to start the clock to give us the 10 minutes, but I'm just going to kind of take off here and just get right into this. I found it interesting that you've been, of course, like every other CEO of a company of any kind, has been really focusing on all of these, tariffs and changes and things of that sort. And you said something really interesting recently. You said that you're addressing these concerns with risk management and supply chain diversification. Can you just talk a little bit about how you define both of those things? Those are very common terms, but tell us, really what you're doing in those areas that you think are a good hedge in this environment.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So risk management in our business, the way we look at it, and then supply chain diversification. Part of the risk management, as we've kind of tackled the tariffs, is how we manage our inventory. When tariffs are 30%, it's a little easier to flow goods in from Asia and other parts of the world versus 145%. And so we have, production capabilities in the US, in Europe, and throughout Asia. And so we can kind of mitigate part of the risk by where we're producing and finishing those goods. But anytime we're buying a fabric, let's say in China, we will not only have the fabric made in China, but we also have to have the ability to make that fabric in, say, Turkey, Vietnam, or in North Carolina, to help mitigate the risk, when the tariffs, again, if they get to 145%, which they were, thank goodness they're not there anymore. But it gives us a little bit more capacity within our business to make changes quickly if we need to.
Is that what you refer to as two-tiered manufacturing? Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you mentioned North Carolina, and there's just been this push to say, oh, well, let's just source more things, produce more here in the States. How legitimate is that with the overall demand? I know you can shift some, but can you give a perspective on whether or not that's something that it can cover any of those deficits from overseas?
Yeah, so it's tough. I think everybody likes to get around the Buy American and Made in America, content. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people, manufacturers and/or consumers that are going to get around, and they're going to buy, the cheapest they can buy. We've had a lot of conversations with key customers about moving some production to our North Carolina facility. And a lot of them are looking for diversification. Even if tariffs go back down, I think they've looked at their internal roadmap for what they're buying, and they're saying, God, we're at risk here. We're buying too much out of China, not enough, stateside. So I think it's been a pretty good awareness, radar for most people, for most companies. But we just came out of Interwoven, the big fabric show that we have twice a year in High Point, and a lot of great conversations around supporting what we're doing at our mill. But it doesn't come overnight. These things, if a furniture manufacturer or a retailer finds something they like, it's going to take months, to get that from concept to sample to production floor. So although the conversations are much more frequent, the likelihood of it hitting our books, the next 30, 60, 90 days, it's going to take a little longer than that. But I think we will benefit for sure from the tariff conversations.
Yeah, this gets into that whole question about being able to plan or not plan. It's just so difficult. Are there any categories of textiles, Lance, that are being more impacted than others in this environment?
As far as our business is concerned, not really. It's just where you happen to buy the textiles. Right now China is 30% plus what they were, during the first Trump term. And for us, the tough part of that, even because everybody's like, oh, you guys are so lucky, you weave fabric in North Carolina. And yes, we are. We're fortunate to have that. But like anytime they start putting tariffs on the inputs, we buy yarn in China and Vietnam, all throughout Europe. We buy in the US. And the reason we don't buy all in the US is because these yarns aren't available anymore. So, overnight, it created an opportunity that we have a mill in North Carolina, but it also created risk and the ability to not be as competitive as we could be because the inputs that we need to buy yarn became a lot more expensive.
And we talk about the impacts here, but is this also having a huge impact on what you do globally? Because we also have to remember that American companies are impacted not just with what's coming in, but what's going out as well. Can you give me an idea about how this is impacting global exports?
For us, a significant part of our business over the last 5 years is business that we're doing in China that either stays in China or goes to Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia. And we're there to support a lot of our large retail furniture manufacturers. So that part of the business has actually been fairly stable throughout this whole, tariff conversation. Everybody is putting questions around everything right now. I mean, if they're producing in China, are you looking at Vietnam? Are you looking at Cambodia? And for us, we've just tried to be transparent and over communicate where we can and not overreact. We've had a lot of customers, I think, that initially overreacted because of fear. And the one thing that is very constant right now is going to be change. And I'm sure before this 10 minutes is up, something will have changed with tariffs. So
you're probably right. It's interesting to me that there have been other fabric and textile manufacturers that have leaned on some of the old tried and true and say, well, it's really about style and bringing customers in. And right now, consumer confidence is just in the basement at this point. And instead, you've done something interesting. You have invested differently in your company. I was intrigued to see that you've put so much on customer satisfaction, a customer mindset, adapting processes to provide seamless and a positive experience. So look, we're in a fashion industry. I get it. Style is always going to be important. But when we're talking about consumer confidence, bringing people to the table, whether it's the manufacturers or whatever, tell us about this focus you now have. Really, you've really doubled down on this customer experience. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, thank you. So we recently hired a director of customer experience. And one thing I've been paying close attention to over the past probably 18 months as our senior team, as we're together, is our business has changed significantly in the last 36, 48 months. And we've basically doubled our business in the last 4 years. And I wanted to make sure that as we're bringing on much larger new customers, that the experience that we provide our customers matches what our customers expect from Crypton. And we've built some really, really great brands in our business, and we have customers today that I can remember when we first launched our Crypton home business. You'd get a customer that was $100,000, and we're like, oh, this is great, and they still are. But now we're getting customers that are mid seven figures, and we just have to be better. And we've come a long way in the 33 years we've been in business, and it's just managing that growth with really great people. And like any other really well managed company, it's the people that make the difference. And we've gotten by for many years with the lean and mean mentality, and we're just starting to bring on the better caliber of people to kind of help us manage the new growth of the company.
Interesting. And you feel that's going to be the hedge, if you will, for the uncertain months ahead, because nothing's going to clear up tomorrow, and we're going to be kind of up and down here. You're really feeling that is a key thing right now, and it's not about what you're manufacturing; it's about how you're doing business.
I think it's a kind of both of those, but I think when times are tough, I think is when you really got to double down. And we certainly pay very close attention to our cost and our cost structure, but this is also a great time to refocus on how we operate the business and what we can do to make ourselves better. And listen, we have to take this time to turn this, we'll call this a catastrophe, into an opportunity with tariffs. And even our sourcing strategy is changing, because where we were buying yarn, let's say in China, we're looking and we've met all these other suppliers all over the world that we're working with now. And it just kind of opens your eyes a little bit, to some of these important, categories in our company that when things are great, maybe we're not always looking at. And I think when things tighten up a little bit, I think we get a little bit smarter in how we run the business. We just have to make sure that as we come out of this, we stay focused on some of those same opportunities.
We have time for one more really quick question. And so what's your key elements then for planning for these next few years ahead?
Our key elements are going to be supply chain logistics, purchasing. Again, we're moving fabrics all over the world with trying to be as close to our customers as we can be. And I'll tell you, for us personally, the fact that we have a brand, we have patents around our technology is really key to us. Because if we were just a commodity and we didn't have a point of difference in the products that we were supplying, we probably wouldn't be in business. So we're going to continue to invest in innovation on the R&D side of our business, continue with the marketing front, and look for innovative ways to make our products better and easier for our customers to get.
Love it. Hey, that's 10 minutes, my friend. Lance Keziah, CEO of Crypton. Thank you so much for joining us. That is another edition of 10 out of 10. I'm Mark Schumacher. We will see you next time.
Thanks, Mark.